So we're just going to give a few more minutes to let any stragglers some time to get in. So we'll just give 2 more minutes and then we'll get our webinar started.
Yeah, it's a cold morning, Scott, so we could use a moment for everyone to settle in.
Absolutely.
Hopping off their coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I went out this morning, it was 6 degrees. So okay, I see people are still coming in, but it's 10:03, so we're going to get started. So my name is Scott Prusso. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here for PPG Networks, and I'll be handling this webinar that you are all joining today. And to introduce some of the folks who are with us, we have Amber R. Lind from the cooperating, she's actually the cooperating purchase programs manager for PEPPM. And Amber, we'd like to thank you and Tom for graciously inviting us to take part in this webinar today and to host this for us. So we truly appreciate that. And we also have my Director of Professional Services from PPG Networks, Paul Wozniak, and he's going to be helping out with anybody who raises any hands and any question and answer that we have for this webinar. We're going to make this webinar very casual, very informal. If there is something that strikes you or you have a specific question about, feel free to put it into question or answers or raise your hand. And Paul can assist you with that. Question and answers would be best, because especially if we have a lot of them, and we'll make sure to answer those as best we can during the webinar, because there's a lot of different nuances with E-rate, and we want to make sure that we cover all those nuances and specifically things that are eligible and not eligible. So to get this webinar started, we want to welcome everybody to E-rate eligibility for virtualization of eligible equipment in cybersecurity. That is definitely a mouthful, and that encompasses a lot of different things. We're going to make sure that everybody walks away from this webinar today understanding what is eligible, what is ineligible in relation to virtualization, specific equipment, and the cybersecurity aspects that we're going to be discussing today. So let's go on to our next slide here. So today's agenda. So we're going to Amber's going to help us with a quick PEPPM at a glance to help us to understand the programs and how they can best be utilized. we're going to be focusing on Nutanix, which will be under PEPPM. We're going to be explaining that product and how that is eligible under E-rate and what specifically is eligible. Again, we're going to talk about the E-rate eligibilities for the items. We're going to talk about what is flow microsegmentation, because that allows the Nutanix product to be eligible. We'll go into that in some detail. And then what are the specific requirements to qualify for E-rate? So there are several requirements. We'll make sure to go through all of those. And also just to make everybody aware that this recording of this webinar will be made available on our website, and we'll also provide it to the PEPPM folks, and they'll make it available to their members as well. So let's continue on from here. So now I'm going to introduce Amber R. Lind. She's the Cooperating Purchasing Programs Manager from PEPPM, and she's going to talk a little bit about the program here.
Great, thank you, Scott. Yeah, so we're happy to be here and just kind of give a little overview first of our PEPPM Cooperative Purchasing Program. So for those of you who may not know, PEPPM, we're actually a program of the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit. So CSIU 16, one of the intermediate units, educational service agencies here in Pennsylvania. And really PEPPM's main purpose is to really simplify the purchasing process. So we are providing piggybackable pre-bid technology contracts that schools and other public agencies, not only in Pennsylvania, but around the country, can use to make their purchases. So some of the key features with PEPPM is all of our contracts are pre-bid. So we already have done the bid process. So you as a buying agency don't have to go through that process yourself, because we've already done all of that work. We have a variety of vendors. Not only our awarded vendors, but the way we do our contracts is by what we call product line. So it's essentially by brand of technology. So there is a large variety of technology brands you can purchase. Again, competitive pricing, because these programs are used, again, nationwide. So having all that buying power behind all those schools and public agencies helps get better pricing for products. And then most importantly is legal compliance, as we are following especially Pennsylvania state procurement requirements, but we also have uniform guidance language in our terms and conditions, making our contracts eligible to be used for federal money as well. So kind of specifically here, as I mentioned, we have technology contracts, specifically product line. And today we're talking more specifically about the Nutanix product line. That contract was awarded to Carahsoft, but as an awarded vendor for a PEPPM contract, they have the option to then authorize resellers to sell through their PEPPM contract. And that's where PPG comes into play. They are one of the authorized resellers for Nutanix. Outside of that, I actually believe PPG has the ability to sell a lot of different PEPPM contracts. I think there's 15 or so. So they are someone you can reach out to, not just for Nutanix. So for purchasing through PEPPM, there's kind of two ways of going about it. If you are just doing a general purchase, you're interested in the product, you can just go ahead, reach out to the awarded vendor or authorized reseller, get your PEPPM pricing quote, and just go ahead and make your purchase from there. If you are using the PEPPM contract, we do ask that those quotes and purchase orders get sent to us at orders@peppm.org. We have a team that reviews those just to make sure everything is compliant with the contract. We also keep a record of that for auditing purposes, which we've seen a lot of that recently with schools going through ESSER monitoring, is them reaching out to ensure that their purchase really did go through the PEPPM program and had that bid protection. Additionally, PEPPM is able to provide a mini bid process for Pennsylvania schools when you're doing a Category 2 E-rate purchase. So the CSIU has an agreement with PDE where we're able to complete the Form 470 on behalf of the school districts in Pennsylvania that want to be included in that, which I believe it's almost all school districts are participating. There's maybe one or two that are not. I have linked here, there is a page that goes through the mini bid process that's on the Pennsylvania E-rate consultants website. So that's linked there. It's also on the PEPPM website to go through that process. Because essentially when you're doing a PEPPM mini bid, E-rate considers the PEPPM contracts multiple award in the sense that there's multiple brands that can provide one specific product. So you're essentially doing a mini bid between those awarded vendors that provide the different brands that are eligible for that product. But that is all laid out very simply on their website. And then again, after the mini bid is evaluated and you have your awarded vendor, that gets sent to us as well, again, just to ensure everything is good. So that's just a quick overview of PEPPM. Certainly happy to take questions later on. Now I'll turn it back over to Scott.
Thank you so much, Amber. Thanks for providing that great information. So we're just going to go through a quick overview of who we are in case you don't know. So we are PPG Networks. We are focused on data center network and cybersecurity infrastructure. So there are 3 core areas. Our primary vertical is education, state, and local government. So we are very focused on education, and we have been for over 28 years. So we've been in business over 28 years, and we're based here in South Jersey, just like 15 minutes from the Walt Whitman Bridge. So this is a little bit about Nutanix at a glance. It's hard to believe we installed the first Nutanix 15 years ago in South Plainfield Public Schools. Nutanix was a $35 million company, and today they're over $2 billion, and that school is still running that same hardware. They've been running it for 15 years. They use it as a repository for backup. So amazing solution, and I think that's why Nutanix has grown so much in this industry. When we started off with them, they had a few hundred customers. Now they have over 26,000 customers. And their recent announcement was they now have control of over 60% of the Fortune 500. So that is a really large accomplishment. So Nutanix, as I said, was a $35 million company. Today they're worth 19, or they have a net worth of 19 billion. A lot of that, I think, goes back to their net promoter score, which is how clients feel about their product, their customer success story. So 90 plus is a very high score. The founders of Nutanix came from Google. So, they have a great understanding of what it takes to build web scale architecture. And web scale architecture is what cloud providers use to build their clouds. So basically, Nutanix is like having your own private cloud. Nutanix was originally built for the DoD in mind. So their first big customers were the DoD. And when we talk about that acronym STIG there, that stands for Security Technical Implementation Guide. That's a set of standards that the DoD puts into place if you want to run your hardware on their network, especially in a classified or highly classified environment. One of the big things about Nutanix is it's self-healing with security. So if you change the security settings in a Nutanix, they will automatically revert back. That is a capability that many providers today do not have out of the box. You have to buy some type of third-party solution to implement that capability. But with Nutanix, you get all of that when you purchase. They also have a strong .NEXT community of over 150,000 members. And that really shows their commitment to their client base and helping everybody really have a good area where you can find out more about the product, implementation, and how you can use it in your environment. And then we just wanted to note here that Nutanix just released their Nutanix Enterprise AI product. So you can now build your own AI solutions on Nutanix with large language models. If you notice in the right-hand corner here, Nutanix has quickly become a leader. So you see that their bubble is slightly smaller than VMware. VMware obviously still has a large percentage of the market, but Nutanix is quickly gaining. So it's just exciting to see how the company has grown over the last 15 years. So now we're going to get into components of Nutanix's E-rate eligibility. So what makes Nutanix eligible under Category 2 firewall? Well, it's the microflow segmentation software. You notice Flow down there. It's called Nutanix Flow. That is the product that is actually E-rate eligible under USAC. And it is actually considered a software-defined network. So we're going to get into more about what that actually is, but we're also going to discuss some of the ancillary benefits of Nutanix and purchasing on E-rate. Let's take a look at that. So here's some of the ancillary software and hardware components. So yes, the micro segmentation, the Flow software is absolutely E-rate eligible. And then these other three components are the ancillary benefits you get of purchasing the microsegmentation Flow software. You get the AOS, or the Acropolis operating system from Nutanix. That's the software that runs Nutanix. It's really the engine behind everything that's being done. You get the AHV hypervisor. So if you're running other hypervisors like VMware or Parallels or Oracle today, with Nutanix, you get it free out of the box when you buy it. So that's a really big advantage. Here in New Jersey and in Delaware, we have probably 95% of our clients have now switched over to AHV, especially with what's happened with Broadcom and people being nervous about, what are the price increases going to be, because some of them have been dramatic. AHV has been a game changer for many schools because it is free and has really been a huge cost savings. And I think a driving force and why many in education are moving to Nutanix now. The third component is the infrastructure, or the NX bundles. So what does this mean? So if you purchase, so Nutanix has to be purchased on an NX bundle, meaning the Supermicro hardware. It has to be purchased in that bundle because that is specifically what USAC has quantified and authorized as E-rate eligible. So you can't just go buy the software and run this on your own hardware. You have to run this following these specific requirements. So the requirements again are you have to buy Flow microsegmentation, you have to buy AOS, you have to use AHV, so you can't use another hypervisor like VMware, and you have to purchase this on the Supermicro hardware. Now, some of the advantages, and we're going to get into this a little bit more about the Supermicro hardware, is Nutanix gives that as a pass-through to you. So you're not paying additional for that hardware, meaning what they're paying for it, we're passing it through to you and you're paying the same amount. That is because Nutanix changed to a software-only company, so they do not want to be bound to specific hardware. The advantage, again, of doing the NX is because the NX hardware is where Nutanix built their platform, so there's tight integration with it, and it is also a requirement with USAC. So we want to make sure that we're meeting all these requirements. Again, Flow microsegmentation, AOS, AHV, and the NX bundles, Supermicro hardware. These are all required to meet E-rate eligibility. And we'll get into the specific percentages for each one of these, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So here is an example of what the microsegmentation looks like. Basically, we install the Nutanix in your network, we put it in discovery mode, and Nutanix starts analyzing your network to see how traffic is flowing across it. So what are some of the advantages of using microsegmentation? And think of it this way. If you understand a firewall handles all traffic north and south coming into your network. Well, microsegmentation from Nutanix handles all the traffic east and west. So here's an example of what you can do with this. If you have a financial server in your school, and I know almost all schools do, if it's not being hosted, they have one. What you can do is you can prevent students and certain personnel from not seeing that server on your network. So Nutanix Flow can block visibility of certain things. It can also stop the spread of ransomware from passing across your networks. And if it detects the ransomware, what you can do is you can go into Flow and you can say, quarantine this VM or this server and keep it off the network until we get a chance to clean it up or analyze it and see what's going on. So that's been a big game changer for a lot of schools, especially if the insurance company wants you to take a copy of that server and upload it to them so they can analyze it. We had one school here in New Jersey where we had to do that. We can just quarantine it, we can upload it to the ransomware provider, and we didn't have to worry about impacting the school's production environment. So again, the microsegmentation software here is a software-defined network, and it controls exactly its name, Flow. It controls the flow of data on a school's network. So you can quarantine ransomware, you can stop the spread of ransomware, and you can tighten security on your school's network. We've been doing this in Fortune 500 with companies for quite some time, the past 5 to 6 years. Schools are now taking advantage of this, and I believe this is why USAC really wanted to make this available to schools, because we know how many schools are getting impacted by ransomware. So we'll go on to our next slide now. So now we're going to discuss the eligibility overview for microsegmentation. So as we mentioned, I mentioned third year, it's almost our fourth year. This will be our fourth year of doing Nutanix eligibility under Category 2 firewall for software-defined networking. To acquire Nutanix and meet the requirements under E-rate, USAC made us put these into bundles. And so what are these bundles? There's specific requirements. So if you're a small school, you would get a small bundle, a medium school, a medium-sized bundle, a large school, and so on and so on. So when we size your environment, we determine at that point what bundle you fit in. And that is how USAC has wanted us to do this. The hardware, the appliance funded is 100%. So we're going to get into the calculations in just a few minutes. We'll show you how they break out. There are a couple gotchas, and this is where USAC is tightening their grip. So on Nutanix, we can only support funding for hardware support for up to 3 years. So if you want a 5-year warranty, what do? Well, we've done this with many schools. We've done 100% of the E-rate here in New Jersey. This is the solution that we came up with. So on your 470, you would file for 3 years of hardware support. And then after we do the installation, we come back to you with a quote for years 4 and 5. And we say, we recommend you buy it now. Why would you want to buy it now? Well, that gives you price lock-in now at the current prices, because as everybody knows, we're seeing inflation has been driving up and costs every year are going up. So this is a way for a school to really control their spend. So you apply to USAC for 3 years. After we install it, you can come back and buy years 4 and 5. And the fee for years 4 and 5 is really negligible. It's just a few $1,000s. So it's absolutely worth it for a school to do that. Now, here's the big advantage. The software is funded up to 5 years. So they'll allow you to do a 5-year on the software, and the software comes at a 72% of your school's discount. So you would take the cost of the software. We'll get into this a little further later. Cost of the software, take 72% of that, and then minus your school's discount, and that would be your school's, that would be the cost to the school. We're going to show a little bit more in a spreadsheet that I have. We also want to show you another gotcha. So the microsegmentation, the professional services. So presently under USAC, those professional services are not eligible. So the microsegmentation design workshop is not eligible under E-rate. And the implementation 10-pack, which is to set up 10 policies in your school's network. The reason that USAC wants schools to do this is this really shows them, the Nutanix and PBG will spend a few days with you. We will go through the microsegmentation software. We will show you how to use it. We will help you set it up, and then we'll set up 10 policies, that 10-pack, 10 policies on your network, 10 security policies. And we'll show you how to take advantage of them, how to further strengthen your network and different things like that. But again, these are not eligible under E-rate at this time. At this point, were there any questions or anything that came up? I just want to stop for a second because I know we're talking about a lot. Okay, we're going to go on to the next slide here. Any questions, please feel free to let us know. So here is our E-rate sample calculation sheet. So say your org's discount, say you're at 50% school. So this is how it's going to break down from a cost perspective. And these numbers were just numbers that we made up to give an example. These should not, this sheet here is to help you, and you can plug your own numbers in here and it'll do the calculations for you. This sheet is really to help you to do estimating your budgetary for Nutanix, for E-rate. So what happens is we come in, we work out the budgetary numbers for you, you'll apply for the 470 and send it out to bid. And so you can use this sheet to help you come up with budgetary costs, but budgetary costs only. So let's go through this. You're a 50% school, and the hardware cost, say, is $60,000, where the hardware is 100% eligible under USAC. So your cost would be $30,000 as a 50% school. That means you would be responsible for $30,000 as a cost directly to the school. The hardware for the 3-year would be $4,500. That is also 100% eligible, but remember, you can only do 3 years of support, and then after your install, we'll come back and we can quote you years 4 and 5. So 3 years at $4,500, and at a 50% discount, it's $2,250. That means your school's direct cost would be $2,250. Then we come up to hardware support for years 4 and 5, $3,000. This is not, again, eligible under E-rate, so you would have to pay years 4 and 5, and your cost would be 100% of that would be $3,000. And then we have software 5-year. Here's an example, and I think this was a medium bundle or a large bundle, but services or software 5-year, 150,000. If you remember in the previous slide, we said that only is eligible at 72%. So you would take 72% of 150,000, which I think is about 108,000 somewhere. Yep, 108,000. And that would make your expected reimbursement 54,000. So if you take the 54,000 plus the 42,000 that the school would be responsible, your total cost would be $96,000 in covering that 5-year hardware. And if you have any questions, I can go over this with you personally. We can help you put in your school's discounts, and we can kind of show you, what it would be more related to your school and pricing. And then sure. Yeah, these aren't exact numbers. And the reason these aren't exact numbers, and this is why we can't do exact numbers, say we don't know what the compute and the storage requirements would be for your school. And that's a little bit of a con in this too. So for some schools, we'll tell you, for E-rate for them, it didn't work out because maybe they were a smaller school, but they were right on the fringe of the medium-sized bundle. So USAC makes you put in the medium bundle. But if we quoted you off of E-rate, we could put you in the small bundle and size you correctly. So we have size constraints because of the bundles that USAC has authorized. And this was really USAC's first time into the foray of doing this. This is like the first time that software, server hardware, firewall capability is all bundled together. So USAC was talking with their lawyers about how can we do this. So we're in the constraints of those bundles. You might be a medium-sized school, but if you're on the fringe there, you might have to go into a large size bundle. That means your cost increases there. So what we tell schools is get a quote for off of E-rate and on E-rate. And if you're a high E-rate eligible school, then most schools are telling us, even if they have to go to a slightly larger bundle, it's still worth it because USAC is covering a good amount of the cost on this for their environment. Whereas in the past, you had to pay 100% of the school had to pay 100% of this out of pocket. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's go back to the services here. So these were those microflow services that we said were not eligible. Say they're $40,000, that would be the cost to the school. So if you look at the total here, the total cost would be $257,500, and then the school would be responsible for $171,250. So if you want to see what an accurate number is for your school, we have to size your environment, see how much CPU and storage you need, and what software licenses and things you want to buy. One of the other notes on this is if you buy this on E-rate, you have to buy the Nutanix Ultimate license. So that's a little bit more expensive. Whereas if you buy it off of E-rate, you can buy the Pro license, which is considerably less expensive. So that is why we're trying to educate everybody on the pros and cons of Nutanix on E-rate. There are obviously some gotchas here. And the best thing would be for you to call us. We find out your percentage and we can let you know, is it worthwhile for you fiscally to go down, this E-rate rabbit hole? So, I hope this helps everybody to really understand, what's required here. And we can absolutely help you. Like I said, we've been doing this. This will be our 4th year. So if you have any concerns, we can sit down with you and go through this step by step to make sure that you're covered. We're going to go into our next slide now. So this is I put this up for timelines, just to give everybody and set expectations. So I'm not saying we can't do this now, but usually when we start with a school, we start with them in October. And the reason is, we have to get quotes together, different options, and, the school wants to see, okay, what do we want to buy? What do we want to do here? How do we want to expand this? And it makes things easier to do that, but it's not to say we can't do it. I know the E-rate deadlines are coming up in the next few weeks, but we still have time to help you if you're interested in doing Nutanix on E-rate. We just had schools call yesterday who told us that they want to do this on E-rate. In fact, we have a lot of schools right now who are taking advantage of this. So if you can, start as early as possible. And if you're not planning on E-rate this year, if you're planning on next year, then I would recommend you call us in end of September, October to start the process of this. We also have a particular E-rate consultant that we work with. We recommend them because they have done all of the E-rate under Nutanix with us, and they catch minor things. They're really good. Their name is E-rate Consulting, and they've started working over in PA. I know they've done many schools over there. So just a shout out to Vince LaForgia and Jeff Sweeney over at E-rate Consulting. They've been great because they've been telling us, hey, here's what we should do, here's what we shouldn't do, to make sure that we follow the letter of the law with USAC, because they can be pretty stringent on things. That brings us to the end of our webinar. If there's any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A or raise your hand and we'll try to help you as best we can. You can email us here at erate@pbgnetworks.com, and I'm sure that Amber can also put her contact information in. I think, let me see, Amber, do we have it on the slide here? Oh, we did not have Amber's E-rate or her email on the slide. So if anybody needs that, you can reach out to me. I can give you Amber's information, or if you can reach out directly to PEPPM and they can assist you with this as well. So again, that brings us to the end of our webinar. Are there any questions, Paul? All right, so I just want to thank everybody for joining. I want to thank PEPPM for supporting this webinar, and I hope everybody has a nice day. Keep safe and keep warm.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.